Welcome to our webinar today. A little late. Thank you for your patience. We have a great presentation today. Just a little housekeeping here. My name is Rachel Nicole. You've probably seen my emails, and I am the regional ambassador for Technovation and in Massachusetts, and a program director at the Mass TLC Education Foundation. And I'm here to help you. I know that we're in the last month before submission deadlines. So by all means, if you need anything, do not hesitate. Do not hesitate to contact me, and I will do what I can to help you. So a little bit of business today about our webinar. So you're all in mute mode, as you may have noticed. And there's a little questions panel, which somebody already used once. So what we're going to do is hold questions until the end. But if you have a question, type it into the question panel, and then we'll answer them at the end of the presentation, okay? So with that, I will hand over this presentation to our presenter, Kirk Arnold. Kirk, you're on.
Thank you, Rachel, and thanks to Mass TLC, and most importantly, thanks to all of you for taking some time to gather together and talk a little bit about a subject about which I'm very passionate. So, by the way, if you saw my name on the invitation, you might have thought you were going to be hearing from a man executive. So I'm happy to report that I have a trick name. I've been in the technology business for 36 years and have been the CEO of public companies and private companies, venture-backed companies, and I'm proud to say a founder of a business with a team of folks that we had a remarkable run. So I bring a fair amount of experience to this discussion, but I can promise you that in this world of entrepreneurship, I learn something every day. And what I wanted to share with you all, and hopefully have time to answer questions, and I'll go a little long if you all are able to do that so we can make up for some of our lost time. Hopefully you can spare a little extra 15 minutes on the end. But I do want to get your questions addressed and help as much as I can on this Technovation journey. This is a tremendous program, and everyone on this phone is tremendous for being involved in this, for putting yourself out there and learning to be an entrepreneur, and hopefully a very successful one. So today, hopefully you'll get some tips that will ensure that success even more likely. But I will tell you, one of the themes we're going to talk about is great businesses are built by great teams, and I'm quite sure we have a bunch of those on the phone. The title of this presentation is The Keys to Building a Great Business, parentheses plan. So what I'm hoping to really focus on is how as entrepreneurs do we build a great business? And the part of the program that is required for Technovation, of course, is you have to write all that down and make a business plan, some more detailed than others, depending on the age category, as I understand it. But the really important part is that you have a great business, and then expressing it in the format, and I'll give you some hints about that as we go through it, is I think kind of the easy part. So my goal is to end this with a sense of some of the experiences we've had to give you a sense of that that help make your business great. And so let's jump into it. I'm going to be using today a model that we use at MIT. So in addition to being a technology executive, I also had the privilege of teaching and mentoring at MIT Sloan School, which is their business school. And as you may know, MIT, by the way, some of you might not know, Massachusetts Institute of Technology, is known around the world for being a place where entrepreneurs either develop incredible technology or incredible innovation. They have amazing innovation around, drugs and pharmaceuticals and tech and engineering and oil and gas, and bring those things to market as entrepreneurs. And so we have a proud heritage, and I love the work that I do teaching folks who are there to learn how to be an entrepreneur in the business school of being involved in over 30,000 companies. And you may recognize some of these companies. Some of them are very established companies like HP and Bose. Maybe some of you have Bose speakers at home, although honestly most everybody now is using their phones as a speaker. HubSpot is a very successful business. So we've got a tremendous legacy of learnings that we have assembled and use in our work. And the other thing that we do at MIT is we teach in the summer an incubator. A group of folks gather and we work with them in what is called an incubator. And some of you may have heard about this as seasoned entrepreneurs, but an incubator is a place where you bring your business and your team, and you get mentorship and you get assistance and learnings and sometimes money. And we do at MIT run an incubator called Delta V. And that is a tremendous experience. So what you're going to learn in Boston, you're lucky enough to be in Massachusetts where there's lots of infrastructure like Delta V to help you. The reason I'm sharing this picture with you is because I want you to take one big thing away. The world of entrepreneurship is many colored, many countries, many race, and many gender. I believe that now more than ever, anyone can be an entrepreneur. So there is nothing about this journey that should scare you relative to the fact that you're a young woman or maybe you're from another country. The opportunities are so extraordinary that I think it draws diversity. And we really love that about the work that we do, working with and learning from a broad array of different people from different parts of the world. But there are some things that do matter about entrepreneurs and that help them be successful. So I want to talk a little bit about the characteristics that we think successful entrepreneurs bring to their business. And one of the reasons I think this is important for Technovation is that as you think about your presentation and you think about how you want to communicate your business, we really want to see a lot of the characteristics of great entrepreneurs in that presentation. Sometimes it's as much how you present your material and how you bring your ideas forward as it is what you're saying in the content. There's no question that many times investors and customers will buy from a team that they believe in because of their sense of spirit. Now, if you look at the traditional definition of an entrepreneur, and you'll see that from the dictionary here, I don't think this is very compelling. So the traditional definition of entrepreneurial is characterized by taking financial risk in the hopes of making profit. And many of the entrepreneurs that I work with, and I think many in this program, are really not that motivated about the profit. They're motivated about a vision. They're motivated certainly to take some risk, to challenge the existing kind of status quo and take on competitors, but to do so in the hope of having impact. And that might be for profit, but it also might not be profit. So we think the traditional definitions of entrepreneur are very dated. For me, the most successful entrepreneurs I know are willing to do something completely new and unproven. Think about that. Think about how brave you have to be to go out there and say, I'm going to make something happen that is completely new, and I'm going to put myself out there. The trick is to not only be willing to take that risk and say, this is my idea and I'm going to go make it happen, but to have fun doing it. Entrepreneurship, as you already know, is a lot of work. And it's joyful work if you feel passionate about it, if you're unafraid, and if you're working with a team that you enjoy and respect and are learning from. So part of the key here is to have fun. So hopefully we'll have a little bit of fun as we go through some of this material. So I'm guessing all of you feel that you're someone who can do something new and improvement and have fun doing it. So just to get the next layer down around the characteristics of a great entrepreneur, assuming you meet this criteria, and I have no doubt that you do, we like to talk, and we stole this actually from Steve Jobs. And Steve Jobs, I don't know, I mean, I know some of you are younger and you may or may not know that Steve was the original CEO of Apple. And when we think about great entrepreneurs and great breakthroughs in innovation, Apple is an iconic company, right? They just invented things that were impossible to imagine and changed the world in many ways. And Steve talked about pirates and why we think that there's a certain amount of pirates in every entrepreneur. Needless to say, in this particular version of the presentation, I'm very focused on women pirates, and there were, in fact, great women pirates, come to find out. We like to say that at MIT that a great entrepreneur, this person who's not afraid to take on new ideas and have fun doing it, has the spirit of a pirate and the skills of a Navy SEAL. So I don't want to spend too much time on this, but I will tell you the spirit part, the excitement and enthusiasm, that is as important as the actual technical details of how to write a business plan. And we're going to spend some time on the right-hand side, but I really want to spend some time as well on the left, because oftentimes we find, particularly for women entrepreneurs, that they're afraid to show their pirate side. So a few minutes about being a pirate. And in fact, in the speech that Steve gave about pirates and Navy SEALs, he said, and in fact, I think this is true, it's more fun to be a pirate than to join the Navy. You can invent your future in a very different way. And we really get very specific as we coach entrepreneurs. I'm not going to spend a ton of time on, but we look for curiosity. And as you do your market research and talk to your customers, bringing that curiosity to bear, the more you know about what your customers need and how they live their lives and how you can help make them better, the better entrepreneur you're going to be. You're all creative. Almost definitionally, great entrepreneurs need to be very creative and show that creativity as you talk about your business and as you develop your business. You have a can-do attitude. You don't let things slow you down. You take those challenges as opportunities to learn more and do better. This is one of my favorites, and for the teachers on the phone, I'm sure you're going, ooh, irreverence is an interesting thing, and I want you all to think about whether you can be irreverent. What irreverence means, and again, for the women entrepreneurs I work with, I really like to encourage them to think about that. The strict definition is a lack of respect for traditional institutions, and we all want to have respect in our conversations with people, but essentially it means we're not afraid to challenge ongoing assumptions, right? And we will do that if we think there's a better way. So that's something that you need to be comfortable doing as you continue to do your research and your development. We have to be flexible. We have to persevere. Resilience is very important. And last but not least, discipline. So we've got to bounce back, but we also have to come to work and work hard every single day. And it takes an enormous amount of focus and an enormous amount of dedication, and doing the work is really important, even when the work is really hard. So those are some of the spirit components. The skills side, the Navy SEAL side, we think is actually, and in my experience, pretty straight up. You can learn how to be an entrepreneur. If you bring all those attributes, or at least some of them, by the way, very few of us have all of them. But if you bring the majority of those attributes to your business, now we'll talk a little bit about the technical part. All right, so what do I do? So I have this energy. I'm willing to be irreverent. I'm willing to be curious. I want to learn. Now what do I do? And that part is actually something that we've had great success at MIT, and we've had great success in business. I mean, most of the folks on this call who participated in businesses know that a lot of business is teachable and learnable, and you can learn how to be a great entrepreneur if that's what's in you. The methodology I'm going to talk a little bit about today is called disciplined entrepreneurship, and it's written by a friend of mine, and it's one we use in the incubator programs and the entrepreneurial programs at MIT. And I'll tie some of the steps back to your methodology at Technovation, but it's pretty straight up, and once you see it, it's really not that complicated. It does require discipline, though. So let's start with kind of the universally applicable principles. And this concept of being a disciplined entrepreneur, and if we go back, you can sort of see, we'll go into some detail about each of these sections, but this is the journey of an entrepreneur. Where do you start? What questions do you ask? And a sequence of this journey that will get you to, we believe, a successful business, a successful startup. But you do have to kind of do them in the right sequence, and you have to bring a certain set of principles to the process. These may seem very obvious, but it's interesting how many business plan presentations I've sat through where, despite the understanding that this is how to do it, we tend to go off track. The first thing you have to identify, and all of you have this by now, a problem that you're trying to solve, right? Also known as a customer need, but this is where you've identified there is a problem, there is a gap in the universe, there is something that I want to impact, something that somebody needs that they don't have, or some challenge that they have that you want to help them solve. You start with that and then customer. So you think, I want, and we'll do some exampling around what that means, but the customer is the next step, and then the solution. And one of the pitfalls of businesses as they start up is that you have a technology or a thing, and you're going to go find a customer who has a problem you can solve with it. So, and we'll talk about some businesses that have struggled through that because they have what they think is a great idea, but nobody really needs it, and nobody really wants it. And maybe it addresses a small problem, but it isn't a very important problem for the customers that they want to sell it to. So it's critical that we think problem, customer, and solution. And in my experience, the one takeaway I want you to have when you leave this call is customer is the most important part of this whole journey, the whole disciplined entrepreneurship methodology. If you know and understand your customers and you're driving to help them solve their problems, then you're going to be successful. If you have a cool idea about a technology and you're looking for a customer who wants to buy it, you will struggle. So we'll talk a lot about the customer. Once we are sort of, as we move through this, the other thing that we want to do is take small bites. And hopefully as you've worked through this, you've had a process that takes small chunks. We need to figure out the customer. We need to figure out what our app is going to do, develop the app with the customer in mind. Then we have to figure out how we're going to bring it to the market and how we're going to make money doing so. And you need to chunk those steps up very thoughtfully and test and validate all the way through. So hopefully you've all been doing your market research. You've all been talking to customers who you think have a problem that could be addressed by your idea or solution. And don't just do that once. As you go through your process and you get through these steps that you have already, hopefully a lot of progress on in Technovation, go back to those customers or find new customers. You can say, hey, we just added this new feature. What do you think about this? Or we're thinking about this. Can you help us? One of the universal truths that's not written on this page is that people want to help you. There's an enormous community of people that want to help you be successful. And so it's amazing how many people you can reach out to who will say, sure, I'll help you. I'll answer your questions. If you can come up with a product that I find valuable. So we like to see people engaging and validating your assumptions out with your customers all the way through the process, including how you're going to make money. For instance, we'll talk about pricing for those who are doing some of the more advanced business planning. And you want to test that. Once you figure out this is what we think we want to charge for our app, or this is how we're going to make money, you want to go back and ask customers, does this feel right? So always go back. When we talk about the problem, just a couple of ideas here. Again, this is the early part of your journey, right? So you've all already identified the problem you want to solve. And it's important to think about not just what the problem is, but where does it occur? For instance, is it certain geographies that have this problem? I know one of the videos I saw from last year, I think it was last year, was focused on lobstering, and that specific to certain locations or certain sectors or certain type of people. If you have a dating app, maybe there's a certain age that you're going to target. So where does this problem occur? Person needs to find a date, and stay as focused as you can on not just the broad idea of customers, but the more focused you can be on where the problem occurs and what type of person you want to target, the better and more efficient you'll be as you go to market. Why is this problem worth solving? That's an interesting question. And I know part of Technovation is impact. And impact matters. It doesn't just matter because we all want to be part of something that's doing the right thing. Impact also matters because when you go out to hire employees, as you grow your business, people want to work for a company that matters. Now, that doesn't always have to be, for instance, we'll talk at the end of the program about an entrepreneur, a young woman entrepreneur I'm working with who's working in solar power. And that's obvious that has impact. She's trying to improve the world and improve our energy efficiency and sustainability. And so that's a big impact. But even that dating app, arguably, for those folks who built dating apps as part of their startup, that's making people happier. You want to make sure that you understand and can articulate the impact broadly that you think you can have by bringing this product to bear, helping customers with their problem, And if the more it matters, I think, the more people are interested in investing and working for you as you go forward. So impact is important. Urgency is important. Do people know they have the problem, and is it right now that they know they have the problem? One of the things that happens often is that we anticipate people will have problems, and it's, well, maybe later when I grow up I'll have a, but right now I'm not that worried about it. So you want to find a problem that is happening today, that people know is happening today, so that they want to buy when you have a solution. And also how to measure what success looks like, and I know that's part of the methodology. It isn't always profit, it isn't always revenue. Sometimes it can be number of users. It's the success metric, because you're going to be able to convert those users to buy more things over time. So you just want to make sure, what does success look like once you launch this business? So that's a little bit about the problem. That's the sort of, we assume as we jump into this journey that we know what problem we're trying to solve and that it's a problem that matters. And then, as I said before, the next critical step and the most important step is, who is your customer? So you can kind of see that we tell you to chunk up your work. We chunk up this idea, this journey at MIT, into some kind of digestible sections. And the first one is, who is your customer? And in the Technovation work, this is the section that asks about who your market is. So we think about markets, but really ultimately a market is made up of lots of customers, right? And so the research and market part of the work that you're doing at Technovation is all really covered in this section. And you can see that it reflects a set of steps, and I just want to kind of underscore one or two that I think are particularly important. So we talked about targeting the customer, right? Thinking about where the problem occurred and getting really targeted about who has your problem. We talked a little bit about, how do you know they have this problem? So I'll give you an example. I teach a class, one of the classes I teach at MIT works with a set of 6 teams that have business plans that are trying to go out and raise money. They're ready. They've been working on their business plans all through business school, and now they're ready to go ask venture investors to invest in their business. And so we work with them all semester to get that business tight. And by the way, we use this exact same methodology with them as I'm talking to you about. And one of the companies is working on a brand new way to, it's a technology for farmers to improve the quality of their water and the yield of the farm. And what we found halfway through the semester is that the farmers don't really feel like they need to have better quality water. Now, turns out they do, because they can get better productivity and they can grow more, crops and make more money, but they don't really know that. And that really slows down a company. And it's very common in technology startups where there's a big new idea and it's going to have a lot of value, but customers don't know they have a problem, and it takes a long time to convince them. So it's always better to be solving a problem that people go, yeah, that would really be helpful for me. I know that I'm struggling with that, or I know I'd like to have a date. This is the dating app. And the closer you can be to a customer who recognizes a problem, the better. Otherwise, you spend a lot of time educating them about how much better their life is going to be when they buy your app. So preferably, customers know they have a problem. And again, the market research is critical. And this is, again, I have to underscore, this is really hard. You have to pick up the phone and ask people and share that you're doing something. But the more of that you can do and reference that as you go forward and build your business and do your pitch, right? And the more you can use that insight about the customers to validate that they understand they have a problem and your solution is going to address it, the better you're going to be. And there is no question that this step is, as you're hearing, critical all the way along. Now, why do you think we think customers are so important? I want to give you a couple of different scenarios of businesses. One of them started with a great idea product, and one of them started asking customers what they needed. So let's start with the one that was a great idea product. So I don't know, again, if you're all old enough to recognize this. It's now called a Segway. It's a balancing technology it's motorized. And this was a startup that had a cool product and was looking to find customers. The name of the company is that originally started. DECA started working on this in the early 90s. This balancing technology started as a wheelchair application. So I don't know how they were going to use it for wheelchairs, but they Segway picked it up, which is a company that was people thought was going to be the next big thing. All kinds of hype, all kinds of marketing. They raised a ton of money, since you can see $90 million, and they predicted that they were going to sell 10,000 Segways a week. You know where we're going with this, don't you? And so they raised a ton of money, a lot of exciting, a lot of hype. No one really asked the question, does anybody really, and by the way, one of the things they talked about in terms of is this problem worth solving is that this was going to solve the energy crisis, that people were going to take these things to work. If you've ever been on one of them, I can tell you I have been, and
Hello? Kirk? I think. So much for all the run-throughs that we did to make sure this had no technical difficulties. Hold on one second.
Back. This is,
back.
This has not been our day. Somebody just cut me off. So anyway, the moral of the story at Segway is it was a complete disappointment, and eventually they sold the company to a Chinese company. Someone actually sadly died at one point in this journey. So it was a technology looking for customers that was all hype and really no need, right? There wasn't really a problem that could be addressed and was embraced by the customer base. Second example is a really simple business. And sometimes we think we need to have really complicated businesses, right? You have to have the newest, coolest technology. Sometimes simpler is the better. And this is a company called Brook Linen. It was started by a husband and wife team who realized that they loved really nice sheets. It's a sheet company. And they started to ask customers, how much would you pay for sheets? And what is your quality threshold? And, can you find them? They're hard to find. Turns out there was a lot of people who, because they wanted to sleep and they needed the rest, they would pay a pretty good price for sheets. They didn't go to venture. They raised their money. They crowdsourced a little bit of money. They were very careful about their investments. And today, they are a white-hot business looking to close this year at $10 million. Never took a penny of venture money because they understood their customers, and they spent tons of time all the way through the process validating, is this the right quality? Do you like the sheet? How much money would you pay? How do you want me to deliver it to you? How do you want to be able to order it? So you kind of get the idea. It doesn't have to be an elaborate, complex, transformative technology. If you understand your customer and what they need, you can have a really successful business. So we think that good customer understanding is the single necessary and sufficient condition for a business. And you can break this down, and I'm not going to go through all of the steps, but let me just reference some of the steps, and they're very consistent with the work that you're all doing at Technovation. You think about markets and segments of markets. So in the case of that sheet company, it was, young professionals who had dispensable income that really wanted sheets, and they tended to be urban dwellers, and so they knew exactly where those people were, right? They weren't going to sell these to the farmers. that wasn't the need. So they really understood their market segment. Thinking about where you start, you don't have to go to the market and sell to everybody. You start with, again, in the spirit of this taking on chunks. Maybe you start in one city. Maybe you start in 4 cities. We call that a beachhead market. What's my beachhead? How do I start? And then I'll grow from there. You don't have to sell to everyone right out of the box, and we actually encourage you to chunk it down and really go get the markets that you target. The other thing that I will reference, because I also think it's try to figure out what your TAM, total addressable market, is. So you start with a subsegment of a group of customers you can find and you can speak to and you can sell to and market to. But eventually you also want to be ready to say, once we get going and we're big and bad and we're winning, the total addressable market could be hundreds of millions of dollars, right? By the way, we're not going to start with that. We're not going to start like Segway did, going after changing cities and how they transfer. We're going to start with one group of buyers. That's our beachhead market. And eventually we're going to understand that the total addressable market as we grow is going to be very big. So those are the big deal parts of understanding the customer. And fundamentally, it's just making sure that you are solving a real problem that they have. So next section is solutions. So we talked about, we have a problem. We now understand our customer. And now the question is, what am I offering them? What's my app? What's my service? What's my product? And does it match the customer need, right? So let's say we're the sheet company and we find out that people really want nice sheets. But then we go out and say, well, we can't really afford really nice sheets, so we're going to just do medium sheets. And then we'll see if they like those. And that would have been a mistake, right? Because they understood that the quality of the sheets was really what was making them special and unique. And so developing a solution that matches what your customers told you they value and they care about is the greatest path to glory, right? Trying to convince customers that they care about something because you have it is a very, very losing game. And that happens all the time. Well, I can't quite get that what the customer needs, so I'll go on a full marketing campaign and convince them that they really want Y. And that's really hard work. Sometimes it does work, but it is really hard work and usually fails. So making sure that what you can do for your customer, which you all, in your Technovation language, that's the product and service that you're providing, the app that you're providing, really important. And the term that you will hear from venture companies, and it's a cool term and it's very hip, and so if you want to use it, is product market fit, right? And the minute that someone can establish that they have product market fit, which usually happens when they get their first set of revenue, that somebody actually pays them for the thing, they will find investors, all over the place interested in investing in their company, right? Once you can establish that what you have matches right into the customer need that you've identified through your research, that's where the magic happens. And you have in your methodology a series of things that are steps that you go through to identify that product. And the thing I want to encourage you to do is to constantly go back to, these are the features of my app. This is what the customer told me, and this is how the feature meets that need. And I started my career at IBM, and they used to train us in sales calls, and that was how they trained. This is my best feature of my product. This is what you told me, Mr. or Ms. Customer, that you needed, and this is how I address that with each of these features. So it's not just the big product positioning works for customer need at the high level. It's that everything we do in our product and in our app is designed because customers need and value it, and that is powerhouse stuff when you're telling your product story. To the extent you can, it's great as we look at that part of the methodology on the right-hand part, as we identify our products and services, it's great if you can quantify. So, and I saw some of this, I can help. Here's a good one. I'm writing a dating app, and I can tell you that if you are my target segment, which is 60-year-old people looking for a date, that if you I will be able to give you a 60% greater odds of meeting an interesting person in my app. So to the extent you can use those numbers as you talk about your business, that's very, very powerful. But the most important thing here is to make the connection between the customer need and what you're putting in there. Everything you put in the app or product needs to be justified. And that's the big idea. It's not reinventing, the next great phone, or it doesn't have to be a big technology innovation. Big ideas are those that knock directly to a customer need and solve it. Another fine point about this, and this is also in your Technovation methodology, and I want to just quickly reference it, is the idea of competition. So what you're looking at here is an advertisement. It's actually, again, probably something that predates most of you. But this was, you can see on the, as I look at the screen, the left-hand side of the screen, Apple ran a great ad about 10, maybe it wasn't quite 10 years ago, maybe 8 years ago. And the idea was, my customer is the person on the right. I'm a cool, hip, millennial at the time, I think. I'm creative, I'm trendy, and I need a laptop that reflects who I am. And Apple had exactly the product, right? And positioned as the provider, I have product market fit. I have the product that is cool and creative and lets you be, easygoing, easy to use, matches the needs. And by the way, the person on the left in the ad was all the things that people didn't want to be. I have my suit on, I'm average, I'm uptight, I'm corporate-y, right? I'm not that person that the millennial wants to be. By the way, that turns out to be IBM. So one of the things when you think about competition, which is also referenced in your methodology, is to make sure that it's not only that my solution matches your problem, solves your problem, but the competition does not. In fact, it's the opposite of what you want. Now, I don't suggest you come at it that way, but as you develop your story about why you're better than the competition, it's not because you have features that nobody cares about. It's because you match the customer needs one for one, and the competition doesn't. So when you think about comparing to the competition, do it in the context of what the customer wants, the customer problem we're solving. Not like I have this and they don't, and I have it. Really compare their ability to service that customer need, in this case, totally unhip person of my age. And just you want to position the competition as not being able to match that need. And that is powerful. And where people get confused on competitive, sort of how do I compare to my competitors is they want to just go back and forth. Really, at the end of the day, it's who meets the customer need better. So think about it in that context and tell that story, okay? Now, maybe in fact, IBM is targeting the guy on the left. That's fine. That's not my customer, right? So maybe they have a perfect product for that guy. But for the person I'm targeting, I have the only solution to make them cool and hip and easygoing. Hopefully that makes sense, because that's important to as you think about competition. The other thing that's important is you don't have to be either all alone. It's okay if there's other people who have a solution, if you will, an app in your category. Again, the trick is I meet the customer needs. A lot of people, for instance, think that when it comes to online shopping, Amazon has won the game. This is a really good example. And I use Amazon to buy stuff all the time. I'm sure all of you, your parents, use Amazon to buy stuff all the time because it's broad and diverse. There's lots of things I can get to. It's easy. There's, very simple, easy to use, very low threshold. But the reality is there are people, and in this case, we're comparing Amazon to a company called Mouser, which is targeted people who like to build their own electronics. And is a really successful business. They do the same thing as Amazon, only they target a different audience, right? So you can go online and order what you want to order. They do recommendations, but they're totally specialized around electronics. People who want to make their own computers, or people who, fix computers, or people who fix audio. And it is incredibly successful. Another example is Wayfair. You've seen the ads for Wayfair on television. Wayfair as a company was a startup in Boston. They only sell furniture. Turns out it's totally different to buy furniture than it is to buy paper towels and, what do I buy? Things we buy on Amazon. And so Amazon doesn't really sell furniture. It's interesting. They haven't even tried to compete with Wayfair because Wayfair is so targeted and focused that when you have to buy furniture, it's different to ship, it's different to inventory, it's different pricing. And so two companies can coexist doing the same thing if they're targeting different things, if they know who they are, and if they stick to what they're great at. So in this case, Amazon is the broad, all your simple like daily needs, and in this case, Mouser is the very specialized needs. So you don't have to be all alone in the market. You don't have to have something that no one's ever thought about, as long as you have a unique take on it that targets a particular customer. And even when you do all that, it's not enough. So we won't spend a ton of time. We're tight for time. I do want to have time for questions. But you also then have to establish, and we have a methodology. I'll try to track quickly too. Once you have your product, how does your customer buy it? And this, again, is marketing in your methodology. There's questions about sales and marketing. in the Technovation methodology. And here we need to figure out who's going to make the decision to buy my app or product, and how do I find them, and how do I convince them to buy this, right? And that is a critical piece of the journey. It's really helpful if you've done your market research up front, so you know your customers, you know where they live, you know what they need. So laying down a marketing program will roll right out of that, but there are some, blocking and tackling we need to do to connect with the customers that we're trying to find. The more segmented and targeted your customers, the easier that work is going to be. You also have to figure out, particularly for the senior folks in the competition, how you make money on your product. Again, pretty straightforward, but complicated. The question for the Technovation discussion is, what price am I going to get for this product? How am I going to get revenue in? And what are my costs going to look like? And obviously, again, we feel like the more you understand your customer and how you're going to distribute, the more manageable your costs will be. Think about the difference between the two businesses we talked about, between the Segway machine and the sheet business. If you're targeted, you can be very efficient and keep your costs manageable as you figure out how to get into your market. And then also you have to figure, and that is, by the way, the reference in your methodology is business model, right? So we talk about how do you make money on the bottom left, but you all talk about business model, really the same thing. How do you design and build your products and scale your business? That's less of an issue when you're making an app, right? I mean, obviously it's hard to develop and program your app, but the good news is it scales nicely. If you were making hardware or cranking out something that you had to manufacture, it's a little more complicated and important. So those are the steps broadly. And I think the methodology gets you there. This is a different way to think about it. And I encourage you to use the little categories as you think about each section. The most important thing, though, we know already, is that we need to start with our problem statement. What are we solving for? Then we go to solution. We stay close to the customer, right? We know that the customer is the king or queen and gets to decide what's important for us as a business, and that we're constantly testing and validating. And I have one more point, and then we'll go to questions, and hopefully you have some questions. At the end of the day, interesting, we opened up talking about pirates and Navy SEALs. The one thing I've learned in 36 years of technology business and being a CEO and a founder is that the one common theme across every business that I've ever been in that was successful, and they weren't all, because they aren't going to be all, by the way, successful, is that great teams build great businesses. And it takes a ton of work as the CEO and founders of a business to build a great team and keep it together. But there is no question that is, because you're going to change your strategy. You're going to learn things after your first release of your product, and then you're going to do a thing called pivot, which is something we all do, even big companies. You move to a different market because you learn something and you adjust your product, and those changes in the entrepreneurial world are called pivoting. The thing that you won't pivot is your team and your culture. I'm sharing a picture here with you of an actual entrepreneur who graduated from MIT, who I just met with last week. She says hi because I was telling her about this meeting. Steph Spears is a CEO of a company called Solstice, and I referenced she has built a platform that connects consumers, particularly people who rent housing, to solar farms. Because if you're renting a house, you can't get solar, and people want solar because it's less expensive and it's good for the environment. So she allows you to connect to a solar farm and actually buy solar energy and get the advantage of that, even as a renter. And so she's building a great business. She said to me last week something profound that I'll close on. She said, we finally have revenue. So she's got product market fit. She's got her first $300,000 of revenue, which is huge. She's been doing this for 2 years, so that's hard. And she's been funding through small investments, no venture money yet. But she said, it's not the thing I'm most proud of. The thing I'm most proud of is the team and the culture. I love going to work every day, and I'm at work all the time, but I love it because these people are so together, so excited about what we're doing. So if you can say that about your company, you have a very, very long and significant opportunity ahead of you, and it's fun to go to work every day. So You want to make sure that you're working with your team collaboratively. People feel empowered on your team and they're having fun, because that's what it's all about. So I covered a lot of ground in a short period, and we're just about, I think we can hang. I don't know. I'll ask the folks. Rachel, are there any questions? I don't see any questions on the list, but I might not be seeing them.
No, there's no questions. Does anybody have questions?
Come on.
Well, we have a question. We have a question. So we'll get the question started. So you guys will get your questions into the question box. So we have a question. Is there one thing we should focus most on in our business plan or pitch?
Well, you know what the answer to that is, isn't it, Rachel? The answer is customers. Yes. No. That was apparently a trick question that I got from Rachel. I think it's funny. You can't. One of the things that's fascinating about MIT and one of the classes I teach, anyone can attend and from anywhere on the campus. So there's engineering schools where they're building new ways to have prosthetic limbs that are just unbelievable. I mean, and there's people redesigning how you make chips for computers that have densities that are going to allow us to do amazing things. And they are engineers, and so they come to the conversation as engineers. And one of the most important things is to connect those innovations in science and technology and pharmaceuticals back to a customer, right? Because you're doing something important, but you have to make sure that you take that exciting innovation and ground yourself in, is somebody really going to buy this? Or do they care about it? Are they going to be valuing it? Am I going to change somebody's life for the better? And so it's fun to watch that process, but it's also it also can get in the way when you're so in love with your technology advancement that you don't remember that you have to have people excited about it who are your customers.
Okay. Well, while people are still thinking about their questions in the audience, we have another one too. How important are financial estimates?
It's a really good question. I know for those of you who have to build a plan, I think it is important, but mostly it's having a solid relationship between your revenue and your cost. So let me tell you what I mean there. So you're going to do a projection for revenue, right? And I strongly encourage you to think about that in terms of, all right, so how many years do we want to serve? Maybe it's just one, our beachhead market, our first set of customers who we're going to focus on. And then once we're successful with them, how do we add revenue by adding, new markets and new customers? And maybe it's in a different state, maybe it's a different language, or maybe you just change it. But think about your growth as not just, I'm going to put a product out there and lots of people are going to want it over time. Think about it in terms of adding and growing your market targets, right? So make good assumptions about that. Generally, I like to be conservative, but not too conservative, because, you want to have confidence in your ability to execute. But the more important thing is to have proportional costs. So if you're going to go make, let's say in your first year, you're going to make, I don't know, $10,000 in revenue. So the closer you can, and so the question is, how many people do you need to support that? You have to pay them, and other costs that you might need of production, or somebody to answer the question if your customers need support, which is an important consideration even for an app. You can have self-support, but depending on who your customers are, they may need to have to call someone. But you want to keep it as proportional as you can to the revenue assumption, right? You don't have to go hire 50 people if you're going to make $10,000, right? And by the way, lots and lots and lots of entrepreneurs want to scale up before the market is telling them, you've got something here and let's go try to take it to the next level. So I think one of the important things is keeping it proportional. Have a good set of assumptions about where you get your numbers. Nobody's going to challenge you about, you think you'll only get 10 customers. I think you'll only get 5 customers. People won't do that. You just have to be able to defend your assumptions. This is why I think I'm going to be able to get 100 customers and they're all going to pay me this much money. And I've got the cost in place. Like if I have to do a marketing program, I've accounted for that in the cost. It just has to make sense. They're not going to challenge you on, I don't believe you, right? They're just looking for you to go through the process. And by the way, this is true of any business plan because you know it's not going to be right. By the way, every business plan I've ever seen, if it's thoughtful and connected and there's a good set of assumptions, some of those assumptions are going to be wrong. Otherwise, it wouldn't be a startup. So no one really expects the numbers to be precise. Does that make sense, Rachel? Would you add anything to that?
No, I think that's a big thing because that is something that does trip up teams, is that some of them don't have, they have to work on a realistic financial program or plan, but at the same time, they, understanding there is some breathing room and, it's speculation to a certain degree, right?
Absolutely. So if you just say, this is what we assumed, right, that we could all find, XYZ customers and we'd be able to do this, and this is how we came up with the numbers, that's what they want to know. Where'd you get that number, right? Not exactly. Like, I don't believe it or you didn't do. So we have a question.
Yes. So
super psyched.
We have, what happens is there's already something out there, but you have a better idea. Should you keep going because people seem to be okay with what is already there?
So it's an absolutely terrific question. And I think I'm going to say this, Amelia, the terrific, did I get that right? Amelia, great question. And I think, no, you shouldn't stop. I think assuming that better means, is that, you there? Am I there? Can you hear me, Rachel? Okay. Assuming that better means I have an idea that is going to better meet the needs of a certain set of people, right? So better can't mean cooler, faster, it has to be grounded in. I have discovered that this existing thing, let's take Amazon as the example, is great for lots of things, but if a customer wants to buy furniture, it's not good. It's not good for furniture. For instance, one of the things about furniture is you have to be able to deliver it with people off a truck, right? As you may know, Amazon uses UPS and, they don't have right, and whatever they use, but they don't have like human beings who do that kind of thing. That's not what they do. Whereas in furniture, particularly if it's expensive furniture, you want people who know how to move it into your living room. So it turns out there was already an Amazon, but this was better for that need, for people who wanted to buy furniture online. So the better idea needs to be grounded in a real customer need. And then if it is, go get that customer. Don't be afraid that there's a competitor, because you're going to go out there and say, I understand what these people need way better than you. So you can have the rest of the customers, but this set of customers, I've got them because I understand their need and I am therefore better. Hopefully that makes sense.
Yeah, I sort of look at it. I use it as a UX design example, but it's also related to this. Is you think of solitaire games and how many are out there, but the reason is because some of them are very badly designed and they're not fun to use. So someone comes up with a better idea of a way to make a game, and people download that one and may even pay for it, which I have done because I wanted one that was good. So
right.
even
and
it's the same
Rachel,
thing.
It was more fun, right?
Right.
I found Rachel. Rachel wants to have more fun. I am going to give her more fun. And to your point, and you're
99 cents for that download.
right. So absolutely, design is a big deal, right? But you want to ground the design and say, for instance, people who do this currently on their app. I'm trying to think of an app that frustrates me. Like there's all these. I do a lot of traveling, and there's all these flight airline apps. And they're impossible to use, and they're ugly, and they're horrible. And usually when I'm looking at it, I'm racing through an airport trying to find it. I mean, that's 3 seconds. So if someone was to design an app that was better for me, right, it would be simple and easy to use, and it wouldn't take 16 minutes to load. Because usually, right, so for that need, they design something better, I'm all over it, right? And there's a lot of apps that are already there that do that. So cool.
Okay, so we have another question here. If, as there is only a month left and submissions are due April 25th, if we're short on time at the end, should we focus on adding app features or building a better pitch and plan?
That's a really good question, and I'm going to let Rachel answer. I'll give you a quick gut feel, and then Rachel can, because she understands. Part of this, guys, is understanding what this methodology is looking at. And what they really want from you. if you were at MIT and we were helping you go get venture money, I would say we have a concept called the minimal viable product. And so we like to see folks get out fast with something that addresses the need, and not spend too much time on adding things as they do getting into the market and learning stuff. So my answer would be get your product where you think you need it to be compelling, and then focus on the story. And in my case, it would be about going to go convince customers to use it. But I don't know that I can answer in terms of the judging. Maybe Rachel, you want to comment?
Okay, so it actually isn't far from your answer. So the thing is that for a submission to be complete with Technovation, you have to have all these certain parts. And for senior division, you have to have a business plan. And everyone, of course, has to have an app. And then there's the pitch video and other things of that sort. But the thing is that it's okay to actually have parts of your app that may not be working 100%, or maybe it's just a screen. I know that some people have done stuff where normally they might be, the plan is for the app to actually do some sort of like live data collection, but because that takes a little more coding time, they actually have actual data in it to feed it so that it will just function. So you can see the functionality, and the idea, and that's covered in the business plan as well, is that the full functionality is it will be doing something else. But this is to show the potential for what the product is. So it really comes down to is that you have to have all the pieces for the submission to be complete. So the thing is, if you've got your main home screen working and maybe that screen over there isn't working, or that's not quite finished yet, but your business plan needs to be tightened up. You might want to put some time into that business plan. But if you're feeling good that the business plan is going along, it's really sort of it's a self-judgment thing. You got to assess, because there's also the kind of thing is like you have 3 days left. Are you really going to accomplish what you need in building that extra piece of the app, or will you be able to refine that business plan or that pitch video to actually cover for that's not quite 100% there? And again, it's a viability thing. It's not necessarily there's many of the apps that have features that are coming, and that's the idea. And that's actually the idea, when the teams that go to the world pitch at the end, and if they win the prize money, the idea is for them to further develop their app. So it's sort of expected that it's not necessarily going to be 100% complete. So there's leeway in there. But again, you want to make sure that you complete all the sections so that your submission is complete. Which I don't know if that's an answer or not, but that is the answer. So we're actually rounding up on an hour from when we physically actually started. Thank you all for your patience with our new technical difficulties we discovered just today. And many thanks to you, Kirk, for spending your time with us today and sharing with us. I will be posting the recording of this webinar and the slideshow to our site so that you can take a look at it later, and that for those who weren't here, not that they can hear this, but if they weren't here, they can then look at it later as well, or you can share it with your teammates who may not have been able to attend today. So before we wrap this up, any last questions? Counting 3, 2, 1. All right, I think we're done. So thank you
all. Good luck. Good luck, young women. Go get them.
All right. And and again, I just want to reiterate that we have, if you need to the teams, that if you need any help at all, please do not hesitate to contact me, Rachel. I will make sure to get you the help you need and get you some answers. And we're having a couple sessions coming up. We have student ambassadors who are experienced in Technovation that are hosting open Q&A sessions. One is April 6th, and the other is April 17th. And I am hosting one Sunday, April, I think it's 22nd, which is the Sunday before things are due. So by all means, come to those sessions too, and I'll be posting more details on that. So again, thank you and have a lovely, lovely day. See you soon and
Thank you.
talk to you later. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.